Thank you so much for joining us on Straight Outta Savannah. I am so super excited today. Today, I have my guest, Sarah Noble is here, and she is going to share a little bit about who she is and what it is that she does and how she can help you. So Sarah, take it away.
Hi, Tammy. It's so good to be here with you. Thanks for this beautiful opportunity and just to create this conversation with you. And I am a spiritual guide, a mystic, a transformational coach, and I live in devotion to creating spaces where people can be fully alive. And I love to do this through connecting with intuition, connecting with spirit, working on our energetic fields, working on all our beliefs and all the chaos and craziness that is our lives, and bringing it all together and recognizing, like, who are you? What is the truth of you?
Yes.
And what are you here to do in this life, in this body? Let's figure it out together. Let's dive in, because I believe we're divine beings having a human experience.
Yes.
And I love to support people on that journey.
Yes. So. That is so powerful. That is so powerful. So now, what brought you on that journey? Because, we've spoken before, and you have an unusual background growing up. So share a little bit about that and how you started to get on this journey of embodying this amazing spiritual guide and mystic that you are.
I wasn't necessarily born intuitive, as some people are that are on this journey. Mine was more a path of discovery. Like, from an early age, I found neighbors to go to church with because my family didn't go to church. There was something in me that just wanted to know God. Yes. And so I, as a kid, was really resourceful and found these ways. And then for a while, I also deviated from that path. I sort of went cold turkey, like, okay, yeah, maybe there's God, maybe there's not. And I'm just going to be Sarah, and I'm going to go see what the world is about. And that was a wild ride. and but the thing is, right, I didn't even really realize it at that time because of the level of unconsciousness and trauma that I was living inside of. And as I was trying to understand or believe in God, right, as a kid, there's such a difference in believing in something and knowing something.
Yes.
And so I could believe in God because people told me this is what it should be like, but I didn't really have any specific evidence or lived experience of my own that gave me that connection or gave me that evidence, I suppose, that we're all looking for, right? We're like, God, show me something.
Yes.
And I don't think it's quite that simple. It's like God doesn't show us things. I think God helps us get to know spirit, God, divine, whichever word works.
Yes.
And it's through that embodied experience that we become, like, we know God. And so for me, that happened, that turning back happened in my late 20s. I ended up on a yoga mat, and a very different version of spirit arrived in me than the one that I had found in the churches as a child.
Yes.
And then everything changed.
Yes.
And it led me on a journey that just kept getting deeper and deeper. And, prior to that moment on the yoga mat, I drank a lot. I had lots of different addictions. I was really lost in life, right? I think we come here to experience life, and I was really experiencing it in so many ways.
Yes, but wasn't it fun?
It was fun. I will say it was fun. A lot of fun was had. And I also wasn't being me. I was trying to adapt. I was running from what I didn't want to look at. I drank because I didn't like feeling how I felt when I was sober in my body. Like, it was so uncomfortable in here.
Yeah.
And I did whatever I could to get out of here and just kind of turn off all the noise.
Mm-hmm.
And so that journey back in was really about finding a different way to quiet the noise.
Yeah.
that wasn't some external substance or codependency or emotional, spiritual bypassing, whatever the thing was. It was more about, who am I?
Yes.
So
So it was
uncovering
more like
all
a
of
journey
that.
to you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Into the truth of who I came here to be. Things got really real after I had my kids. I'd already been on a 10-year journey of sobriety and personal growth work and all kinds of things. And I thought I had my stuff together. And then I got married and had kids, and I was like, I know nothing. I just felt like I was thrown into the deep end again, and went through a really big dark night of the soul after those kiddos came. And then that was really, really the catalyst that took me to this next level, where I realized this is my devotion. It's really connecting with that. Everybody has their story. Everybody has their struggles.
Yes.
And they don't define us unless we let them.
Yes.
So navigating that journey out of that place into really the place where we're remembering our wholeness, remembering our sovereignty, remembering our divinity.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. And what type of practices did you learn to help you to do this, to navigate this, and also, to be able to help others? I mean, what called you to those practices? Because I know, all of us on the journey, we're called to different things. Like I was called a Reiki at first, and then there's some other stuff. And then as we go along, it's like different things, start calling. So what was the thing that started calling you at first that made you really dive deep into this journey and say, you know what, I got to do this?
There was a woman that I met, or there was a moment where I was looking for some help, and I was looking for, I didn't even know what I was looking for, but I knew I was looking for something. And I ran into a friend.
Sounds like me.
Right? Ran into a friend at Costco, and I was like, oh, he was a massage therapist, body worker, and a yoga instructor. And I had already practiced with him and had begun that yoga journey. And I just kind of stopped him in the aisle and was like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad I ran into you. I would love some help. And he's like, well, why don't you try give this lady a call? And she was an intuitive healer. And I went and I met her at her office, and I had no idea what she was going to do. And then she just started intuiting information, and she knew all this stuff about me. And I've never met this woman before. And something inside me was so curious, what is happening?
Yes.
This is so weird and so cool.
Yes.
Right? And how does she know these things? Who told her?
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. I know Big Brother is listening. And I know that if I say something, then my phone will pull it up.
Oh my gosh, right? Yeah, this was way before that.
So you were like, how'd she do that?
Yeah.
Did she talk to my people?
Yeah. So it lit something inside me that started a journey. And, I signed up for classes with her on how to learn more about being intuitive. I previously had thought that you were born intuitive, that people that had these gifts, they were just special. And if you weren't born with it, then you just kind of had to sit this one out or something, And at the time,
we all thought that.
Yeah. And I didn't realize I'm a soul on a journey. None of this. I was so I'm just human, and my ego. Yeah. I mean, I remember the first time one of my first therapists told me that I didn't have to believe what I thought. It was I don't even understand what you're saying. What does that mean? Yeah. This is who I am. All those chaotic things running around in my head. What do you mean I don't have to listen to them and they don't mean anything? This is nuts. And but so good, right? You suddenly have this freedom.
Yeah.
Somebody hands you this gift of just this small piece of knowledge, and then it's life-changing.
Yeah.
And so these little pockets of things, right, that just always wanted me learning more. I'm a learner too. Like I'm an explorer soul, so I love to adventure and travel.
Yes.
I've always wanted to learn, like just always.
Yes.
And so it was just something else that I really wanted to dive into. It had a lot more substance to it though, than just, oh, I want to take a cooking class, or, oh, I want to speak Spanish, or, like this was like, ooh, this is really delicious. Like, what's this? And I literally, once I started, which is like over 20 years ago, right? I haven't stopped. Like there was no point. Sometimes I'd be like, okay, maybe I need a little break. Like the trauma work is like, it's a little deep and hard right now. I need to breathe for a while. But then I was right back in it.
Yeah.
It was just, everything began changing, and everything I believed about the world started changing.
Yes.
Like my reality didn't even make sense anymore. And it was like, wow, if this is possible with this, like what else is possible?
Yes.
And I started to feel better, and I started to like actually kind of like myself. Like, well, you're not that bad, baby girl, like, whereas before I was just so hard on myself.
Yeah.
And just, oh my gosh, disliked myself like intensely. Like I was never good enough. I couldn't believe anybody could like me or love me. Like it was really hard being me for a while there,
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. Do you find that this is the case with a lot of women? Because I find that on my journey, it seems that a lot of women deal with this more so than men in this way.
Yeah, there's a very big pressure on women to look a certain way.
Oh, yeah.
And, in all honesty, like I don't know what men struggle with the same way, because
Mhm.
I don't think they have the space to talk about it the way we do.
Right, right, right.
They have to just be the guy. Like they've got to provide, they've got to protect. They don't have emotions. Like we don't have time for you for that. Like I think we equally have our own sort of mountain or challenges that we're working through.
Mhm.
But so in my experience, women struggle with this because from so early, we are supposed to look this way, be this way, do all these things. I mean, my eating disorder started when I was 10 years old. Like I was already
Because they show it
concerned.
to us on TV. And they tell us on TV, they want you got to look like this. And, you got to be, I used to say, they say you got to be a stick person,
Mhm.
not a real person. And they tell us these are things we have to do as girls and women growing up. And this is the examples that we saw, which I
Mhm.
think it just created a toxic culture for women, because women grew up thinking they couldn't be who they were,
Mhm.
and I really truly believe that that was a part of it. So as you were growing up and you dealt with you said an eating disorder at 10?
Mhm. That's when it started. Like I started starving myself because
Okay.
I wanted to look like the other girls did. And I was just thinking about this the other day, because I grew up in the Bahamas and I went to a school, we wore uniforms. And the Bahamas has many, many beautiful qualities. And it also has a very conforming, um, what's the word? Like the
Culture?
culture, yeah, is I felt like it was even more conforming. And then you're in school, you can't wear nail polish, you can't wear jewelry, your socks have to be this length, your skirt has to be this length, your shirt has to have the embroidered thing on the right pocket. If you get a badge from doing something good, it has to go on the left side. Don't wear the braids, no ribbons, no. And I was like, you just have to fit into this little box
Hmm.
of who you are supposed to be. And then you need to get good grades. And then you can't look at boys. And then you can't like not go to church. And it was like, wow. Like once I left that and saw that there's different ways of living,
Hmm.
there was a lot of freedom in that. Like, wow, okay, I can wear my jeans with holes in them. Yay.
And you can even wear
Paint
them
my
to church if
fingernails.
you want to.
Right. Yeah. Not there. Not when I was a kid.
Right.
I mean, you probably could, but then people would be looking at you and like you'd feel uncomfortable because you didn't have your like super starched dress on.
Right. So you'd be ostracized, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that would just create a whole nother thing. So as you begin to see yourself, what was it like for you when you began to make those transformations, those big, or actually we could say those quantum leaps, because
Mhm.
that's kind of how we transform, is in quantum, and not these huge, great big things that people are saying. And so as you made that transition and as you were going on your journey and you started making those shifts, what was it that you saw in yourself that brought you where you are now?
There was a ability to be authentic. Like instead of this is the person that I show to the outer world that I constantly am adapting, changing, monitoring all her thoughts, everything she's doing. And then this is how I feel inside. This is who I want to be. And the distance between those was quite large. And inside at that time too, it was just running a lot of trauma patterns, a lot of conditioning, a lot of not self activities and behaviors on the inside. And these two things are in such opposition. Like people outside thought I had it all put together and I was doing a great job. And oh, look at Sarah. I love her smile. You're always so smiley. Inside, I'm like a terrified bird in a cage,
Mm-hmm.
and but I was really good at putting on a different persona for the world and then having like 10 drinks to be able to manage it and so
Yes.
not having this giant gap inside me, like with everything I did, this gap grew smaller and smaller to where now I really feel like the person I am when I'm alone in my house
Mm.
is the same person that's going to sit here with you and have this conversation. Like there's not a big disparity between them. There's not a
Mm-hmm.
lot of space in there anymore. Not saying that I
Yes.
don't have challenges, not saying that I don't get triggered
Right.
but there's so much more consciousness
Yeah.
in what happens. And it's like,
Yes.
oh, Sarah Bear, look at that. That's fascinating how you just reacted that way, or you
Yeah.
said this thing, or you thought that thing. And whereas before there was just no filter of that. It was like, rah. And now if I do a blah, I can see that it happened. And I can also track why it happened.
Yeah.
So there's so much more capacity to be with me.
Yes. Yes. That is powerful. That is so powerful. That is so powerful because so many women out here don't have that freedom, and I think it's why we're able to do the work that we do, because there are so many women out here that, feel just like you felt, like they have the mask on. I actually did a post about that the other week about having a mask on, and about being able to take off the mask. And that to me is like so powerful of a thing to be able to do, because regardless of who you are, we all wear them,
Yeah.
and then once we get conscious of it, that's the key to me. That's the key.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, in the Andean traditions, the shamanic traditions that I'm trained in, they talk about it as the roles that we play. So we have
Hmm.
all these different roles, and it's learning to be inside of a role, but not be the role. So like I can be a mother, like I can be inside the role of mother, and I can love and mother and care for my children, but I am not defined solely by the fact that I'm a mother.
Yes.
And then I can be a wife or a girlfriend. And I can love and flow inside this role, but that is not, it doesn't define me. It's not who I am.
Yes.
Who I am is the true self inside, the authentic version of me that came here to live. And I get to play and dance with these roles because they're supportive and they're enjoyable. And, they bring a lot of pleasure to life. And yet I'm not hooked by the role where I can't disengage from it, where I don't make it my identity. I don't hide behind it. I can put it on like a costume and take it off when I'm done. And so we get the benefit of having the archetype, of having the role without being consumed by it.
Yes, 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 yes. Because I truly believe that so many of us get consumed by it, and I think that's why as women, as we age, each decade, I believe that we transform and transition every decade. I believe as a woman, especially. I can't speak for men because I'm not a man, but women, I know that as we get older, the decades we transition. And a part of that to me is just like you said, identifying with the role, but not being the role. And so many women are so caught up in that, especially the mother role, and then when the kids grow up and, and then they have the empty nest thing going on and all these things. And, I'm like, well, didn't you think your kids were going to grow up? Because that's what they do.
I know, but we love them so much. I'm like, mine are young. So I am very grateful that I am not at that part of my life yet.
Yeah.
It is, though. It's so easy to get caught because when we talk about it from an energetic perspective, the role of mother has so much energy attached to it, right? So it is very easy to get overtaken by that archetype.
Yeah.
And every archetype has a shadow side and a light side because we live in duality.
Yes.
And so when we are in the light embodied side of the mother archetype, there's magic.
Yes.
It's when we bring in the dualistic side of the shadow that where we can get caught. And when we go unconscious, right? The light side is the conscious embodiment of the mother role. And then the shadow side is the unconscious. And I believe we're just here to bring more of our unconscious to our conscious again.
Yes.
So, we're born very conscious, and then all the conditioning gets piled on top of us. Do this, be this, don't do that, don't do that. This is who you are. Don't you know that?
And I know we don't do that. We don't do that.
Oh my gosh, right? Like we, just have our children conform. And then as adults, we grow up conforming and believing all these stories that we were told and out of love, right? Like not making anyone's parents wrong because they're just people trying to live, doing the best they can. Yeah. And they just, think about how much we love our children. Our parents' love does that much too.
Right.
And some people, they just made really big mistakes.
Right.
Like they just did.
Yeah.
And they're just really in that unconscious side of the archetype of the role of the program. And so I believe as we grow up, part of why we're here is to then uncondition ourselves.
Yes.
Pull away the stories, pull away what isn't us, and find who we are. I believe it's part of the spiritual journey. We go through life believing the story, grow up, get the job, get the partner, get the kids, get the picket fence, get the two dogs, do the thing. And then we're all sitting around like, and now what? Because that didn't do what I thought it was going to do. It's great. I love it. And some of it worked and some of it didn't.
Right.
And now we're divorced and we share the killed children and the dogs and, we're making it work. And what next?
Right.
Because there's got to be more.
Right.
That sparks it.
Yes. It's like, I was speaking with a friend the other day and we were talking about how we grew up watching Cinderella and what's her fucking name, Snow White, and the other girl, the Sleeping Beauty. And so we grew up watching these things.
Yeah.
And so it set an expectation for us. It set an expectation that, we're going to grow up and we're going to meet the prince. We might go through some stuff because, Cinderella, they dogged her out. She went through some stuff, but then, she married the prince. She went to the ball, and, that was her change, her transition, her catalyst. She went to the ball, and so then she married the prince. And so we grow up watching that shit. And so we think that is, how it's supposed to be. Not only that, but we also think that, that's it. Like you said, what else? You get the man, you get the kids, you get the dog, you get all the stuff. But then what else? There's more. Is there more? It's like there's
Yeah.
more.
And for me, I even waited to live the fairy tale. Like I was like, I'm not signing up for that fairy tale because it didn't work out so great for my parents. So I'm going to wait on that. And I went and I traveled and I lived life. And I just was like, there's a whole world out here. I'm going on this adventure. And then at 40, I got married and had my kids. And it was still like, okay, well, what next? I've done all of this living. Like, so inside of all of that, this desire to know God, to know spirit, really moved me along the path. And you were talking about quantum.
Yes.
And related to that, like, it's those little steps, right? Like all the little steps that lead up to the life that you don't necessarily understand what this next step is bringing. Or sometimes when you're on this intuitive spiritual journey, you're like, I don't even know what's going to happen tomorrow. But spirit is like, you need to do this, take that step. And so you do it and you build this place inside you, I believe, is my experience, like this trust and faith, but not faith in something that I can't see. Because for me, there's a lot of real things that happen in my life that I know are miracles, that I know is spirit holding me and like moving me along. And I say that I love that prayer called Footprints, where the man dies and he goes to heaven and then the footprints on the sand. And I'll just say it a little in case the listeners don't know. It makes me cry every time. And they're walking and there's two sets of footprints on the sand. The guy is noticing like through all the happy moments of his life. And then the times he struggled, there's one set of footprints on, and he asks God, Spirit, why did you leave me when I needed you the most? And Spirit says, I carried you.
Yes.
And I just, it makes me like, I just love that because that is the truth.
Yes. That sends shivers every time I know. That one and our deepest fear, those two, like really, every time I hear them, it's like, oh my God, because we can all think about those times in our life. I know I do. I'm like, I know there were times when God had to carry me, because a lot of it, I don't even remember, so I was like, I know God was there, and I know he was carrying me because, for one thing, it was too heavy for me, and that's one of those things that I think as you're on this journey and you come to that, and then you listen to or you read and look at stuff like the footprints, and it just moves us because we know that there were times in our life where God had to be there.
Yeah.
There was no way that you could have made it without.
Yeah, I was just reflecting on that actually the other day, like really as a gratitude practice, I believe is what I was doing. I was just going through segments of my life and recalling those moments that spirit was there with me, because had it not been, I don't know what would have happened. like, and I was just building that frequency inside me of really recognizing that how held we are and how supported we are, and that
Yes.
spirit is real. Like this,
Yes.
we just can't see. Like, we don't even know what we don't know, and we can't see what we can't see until we
Yes.
practice, until we start to gather more wisdom, right? It's not even information, it's wisdom.
Yes.
Like, and
Yes.
knowledge, like, of that people before us have experienced, to then
Yes.
help us see something that's possible.
Yes. Oh my God. It's like a hunger.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's like you have this hunger, and you just gotta go, and you gotta see, and and there's so many things to know and to learn, and I don't know, like, what I do. I don't know, 80,000 books around here. So, I'm like, okay, I want to learn about this today, so I pick up a book and I start, going into it. Like this one I've been studying for, I don't know, a few months, maybe almost a year.
Oh, that's a
Because,
good, I haven't heard of that, but I like the title.
oh my God, it's amazing. It's Ina Segal is who wrote it, and she's amazing. She does color healing. And so
Mm.
that has been like, I have loved it so much, and I've used it and it works. It's just fire. But anyway, okay, so we're to wrap up. Because we could keep going.
I know. There was a thing I want to speak to real quick before we wrap up, if that's
Yes,
okay, because you
yes,
brought up fear.
yes.
And it's like, as we're moving on this path, and as that hunger speaks
Hmm.
to us, there's also that other voice of fear.
Yeah.
So often on my journey, there were both voices. And it makes me think of the part about the wolves, that parable or that story where there's the two wolves inside the boy.
Hmm.
And when he asks his master, which wolf should he listen to? The one of the hunger or the one of the fear, and I'm messing it up, but he says, which wolf will win, I think. And the master says, whichever one you feed.
Yes, yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes,
And it's like,
yes.
the fear is going to be there. Like, it's just part of our survival physiology. And so it's really creating a relationship with that fear,
Hmm.
where we choose what we would love. We choose the hunger, we choose the passion, we choose the path
Hmm.
in spite of the fear.
Mm. That feels so expansive.
Yeah.
It feels like,
Mm, yeah. And we can do it. We
yeah,
do it every day in all kinds of ways.
yeah, yeah. I believe that as people like you shine your light, and people come to, get healed and get um free, and what's that word I like? Delivered, from all the things that, are holding them back, and all of this stuff. I believe that it's going to move the needle in the society, because we're hurting, and we need some things,
Yeah.
and I truly believe that about the work that you do, because it's so transformational. So transformational. I am so grateful for you.
Mm. And I am
Always,
grateful for you and love you.
for sure. Um, so you can drop some last jewels. You can drop how people can connect with you, and if you have anything that you're offering at this time, you can share that as well. All of the details will be in the show notes, so you can click on that. Her links and stuff will be in there. So, but if it's something that you want to share before we go, and also share with the people where the best place to connect with you is, and if you have anything that you're doing right now, any courses or anything that you're feeling, share those things.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah.
My website is my name, sarahnoble.com. And on Instagram and Facebook, I'm at The Modern Day Intuitive. I also host a podcast called the Modern Day Intuitive Podcast, which is designed to help you really connect in with your intuition and also to expand this idea and recognition that we're all connected. The
Yes.
things you're struggling with, so many other people are struggling with, and this podcast gives teachings and insights onto how to navigate those spaces.
Yes.
I also have a quiz that is designed to help you figure out your intuitive superpower. So we all have 4 main intuitive gifts that we're born with, and typically one of them is stronger. And I really love, in my journey, understanding which one of them was the strongest was like a portal into developing that one. And then the
Yes.
other ones became developed around it. But it gave me a starting point where I already had some, there was a strength there.
Yes.
And yeah, I offer a variety of self-paced programs and one-on-one work. So
that is so
yes,
powerful. And are you taking guests for your podcast right now?
I am. Yes. Yeah. If anybody would love a reading. So I do an intuitive reading is the way that the podcast is designed to have the
Yes.
teaching come through. So yes, I would love guests to come in and help the world, right? We're all in this together.
And I'm going to say, I'm going to do a testimonial before we go because her podcast was fire. Her reading was so on point and it actually opened up so many things for me. So I have to say that because, I'm giving her flowers.
Thank you.
Because she was amazing. And so if that's something that you're interested in, all I can caution you to say is be ready.
Be ready to be you. Right?
Be ready to be you. Yes.
Yeah.
And so, but it's so amazing. I'm so excited for her showing up today on the show. And I love, all of what she said. So if you didn't get anything else out of that, I mean, really listen. And, I would take notes because I did. But I would take notes because she brought some fire today, y'all. So thank you for joining us on Straight Outta Savannah. We have had such a blast. Her details, like I said earlier, are going to be in the show notes. So you can click on her links and everything from wherever you listen or watch. This is going to be on all the podcast platforms, and it'll also premiere on my YouTube channel next Saturday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. So super excited and super grateful to be here and grateful for Sarah. She's been such a beautiful, inspirational part of my life, and I'm so grateful to share her with the world. So again, thank you for joining. And when you are ready, reach out to her. And if you would like to be on her show and get a reading, that is fabulous and fun. So make sure you reach out to her everywhere that she is. So again, thank you for joining us on Straight Outta Savannah. Thank you, Sarah. Namaste.
Thank you.